window pane and accommodation.
I'll start with a karakia. Please feel free to join in. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e he aki ana, te atakura, e teo, he hoka, he huho, te he moriora. There are no apologies, everybody's in attendance. Are there any declarations of interest that has been brought to my attention thus far? There are none. We have one additional item of business which was circulated to members last couple of days, which we need to add, and this is in respect to the audit plan and program for the 26 financial year. The only reason it's a late item is because it was received by staff after the agenda was distributed, but nonetheless must be discussed today because of timing for the audit work that is proposed. So there's a recommendation that we request, as you were, that the request to accept the late item be received and the committee accepts the Deloitte audit proposal and planning report, and then we add to the list of exclusions from the public agenda. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Graham, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. There are no members of the public wishing to speak. Thus, we go straight to item number 1 on page 9 of the agenda, which are the minutes from our last meeting. And I will take these on a page turn basis. Page 9, 10 and 11, just noting at the bottom of page 11 there's a date, says 30th of March 26, should be 30th of April 26. Pages 12 and 13, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19, that's as far as we go. Do we have a motion? Councillor Cotton, seconded by Councillor McCluskey. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Speak to my report on page 20, or starting on page 20. And I refer to those uncertain times that we're currently operating in, the amount of work that we are doing and are required to do. And let's remind ourselves that over the past 12 months, or well, more than 12 months to be honest, we've spent considerable time and resource developing future water services delivery models, and will continue to undertake further work on that over the next 12 months as we head to the start up in July 2027. We're now faced with responding to further proposed changes that will have an impact. We're talking about rates capping, which of course is proposed to come in on the 1st of July 2029. And also the Head Start pathway, for which you've had recent discussions, and consider how that may impact not only on this council, but on our communities at large further down the track. You've read through the government material. They're looking for responses by early August, and it leads through to a process for cabinet discussion and decision making in May of 2027. We're aware of the quantum of stranded overheads that will fall across the rest of the organisation from the 1st of July 2027 after the water services delivery model commences, and also the shape of our balance sheet when we take out both the assets and the liabilities associated with that from that date. And I guess my real concerns are twofold. The first one is the timing of that central government legislation for the future sector role and responsibilities. Given that this is election year and there's a very tight time frame, so we're doing a lot of work up to that point. Election is late November, nothing happens December, nothing happens January. And by the time we get back to business in February, it'll be too late to do anything in terms of our LTP, which is my second area of concern. It's around how do we frame assumptions, particularly to drive the development of a meaningful long-term plan for the period starting 1st of July 2027. When we don't know legislatively what is going to be happening, we don't know who we're going to be doing things with, we've got our water services delivery model in place. Will those be the partners that we would potentially look for in the future? Are there other partners that we may be looking at? And if that is the case, do we hit the stop button and go to reset again? As a sector, I think we need some very timely guidance, but coming very soon from the Office of the Auditor General, or the Audit Office as they're now known, because they will be involved in direction setting around the long-term plan. I know there's legislation in place, and legislation would have to be changed to make that a wee bit easier, but nonetheless, it needs to be considered. And we must also take the time to develop our assumptions for future operations and consider how they will impact with our potential partners. Are our assumptions the same as our potential partners' assumptions? In my view, it would be prudent for this committee to take a lead not only on those assumptions, but also in terms of some of the direction setting for the long-term plan. When I wrote this report, I was just about to head off to an audit committee chairs forum, which I did attend. There's about 40 of us there. The forum itself went under the heading Strategic Finance and Value for Money. And it was around asking the question, can we get assurance that we are getting good value for the money that we spend? And there was 5 key headings. The first one was core attributes to good financial management. And the comments that came out of there are, how do we make decisions that are sustainable over a period of time? Good financial processes, quality information, and we've just had a workshop prior to this meeting around the information that's provided by staff to elected members. Is that adequate for you to make decisions, or do you want further information? Integrated planning processes, the importance of good governance and leadership, an acknowledgement that strategic finance, it's not just about money, it's about the whole of organisational going forward. Financial prudence for future generations as well. Second question that was asked is, how can governance best support the organisation? We talked again, whole of organisational engagement. Can we clearly articulate our financial strategy? Ask ourselves, how is it being executed? And what is the role of this committee in the execution of that financial strategy? Do you as elected members have the opportunity to challenge the information that's presented? And are you satisfied with the timeliness and the quality of the answers that you're getting? Asking the executive team if they're confident about future forecasting. And again, that's one of those things that we brought out towards the end of the workshop this morning. The third question was, how does risk management framework support decision making? And it's around understanding how the risk factors are integrated across the organisation and what are the consequences of risk failure, financial consequences. In respect to the question, how do we get more for less? The question was asked, are we the right provider? So a lot of those things that we do traditionally, talk about these core services that we're going to be looking at going forward on one of the pieces of legislation. So a lot of things that we both provide funding and service delivery of across our community. The question that was asked is, yeah, the funding's fine, but are we the right deliverer, or are there other organisations within our respective communities? And the last question was, what role is AI playing in strengthening financial strategy? And I think that's one of those things that will continue to be in front of us, for this council, given the change to our IT system. It's one of those things that we will start to look into in more depth. Not surprisingly, after those 5 questions, the conversation got onto other things such as the independent chairs, which was thrown around. And I guess everyone's a wee bit intrigued because up until that announcement was made about independence of chairs, independent members, we're 180 degrees away from that point, saying our councils need to consider more independent members, possibly chairs, but certainly members, because of the additional expertise that may be required. The outcome from the conversation was and acknowledging that it's just suggested that it may be added to the legislation at this stage. It depends, independent people, rightly or wrongly, depends on committee skill set. External appointment is acknowledged as bringing new levels of knowledge that from somebody that's not directly involved in operations, and also independents can ask the hard questions and can lift performance. So we will continue to watch that with interest. And finally, we drifted on to conversation about regional council transition and how establishment units will probably be required because you can't do the transition to new stuff as well as business as usual. There's just too much out there at the moment. And finally, I took the opportunity to meet with our independent auditor. You remember Mike Hawken was on the screen at our last meeting. Mike's going to be at the meeting later this morning to speak to the papers that we just resolved are going to go into the in-committee part of the meeting. So he'll be here about 11, and there will also be the opportunity for an auditor-only time with Mike when he's here as well. And what we'll do is we'll flip around the order of the agenda so that that item is taken last in committee today. So those are really all the things that I had to report on, but happy to answer any questions on any of those observations. Or if no questions, I will move receipt of that paper. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Carried. Sharon, the work plan on page 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you know, this table focuses on things that we want to, excuse me, the work plan we want to go through for the year, and there's been no changes to that, so I'll take it as read if anyone has any questions.
Any questions of Sharon? There's not. Councillor Makatamini, you're happy to move?
Yeah.
Councillor Harrison, happy to second. All in favour? Carried. Item 3, Donna, welcome.
I don't know. That's why I did that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'll go back.
We didn't bring it up, so I assume that we're just going to be talking from the end.
Got my steps in anyway. Morning, everybody. So this report is item 10 in regards to our risk status progress reports associated with failure to meet service delivery commitments. If you go through the report, the inherent risk with council is critical currently, and from the mitigations that we've put in place, we've determined that the current residual risk should be reduced to medium. It was prior as high. So just working through what the current controls in place are and some information about that. So the control at the last time this report was reviewed was that there was a new structure, organisational structure to be put in place that has now been completed. The projects are categorised yearly by management and approved by elected members. So the control associated with that is that myself and the relevant team members annually assess and prioritise projects, categories and urgency of delivery. We follow, following the announcement of Southern Water Done Well, a strategy has been approved by our elected members associated with the approach and delivery of the 3 water projects up to and inclusive of the 1st of July Southern Water handover. One control is a category A reported 6 weekly. These projects are reported at risk and assurance to the committee members, and we sort of have our risk register as well associated with each of those projects. Communications plans should be developed with each category A project. Part of the project implementation document that Raymar has designed as a template, we have that process in place now where communications and all stakeholders are recognised and acknowledged at the time of the implementation document creation so that all project managers and associated stakeholders are recognised and acknowledged there. Internal and external comms strategy. Elected members are involved in the development of press releases for significant issues in the area. Staff also generally call and advise of significant issues in advance of public notifications. Internet and website. This is revised and updated by our communications team. The stakeholder engagement process, again, that is part of the new project implementation plan that we have in place. And council staff are trained in customer service comms. This is part of our council-wide induction process. Contracts are set up with green space and roading contractors. A number of our contracts are coming up for renewal or extension. We ensure that we follow correct processes and procedures associated with the contract law. So, for example, the roading maintenance contract we're able to do a 5+5 contract, and we are currently in year 4, so we're currently sort of sitting around the table and discussing with the contract at the moment their interest in proceeding with the additional 5 years. We've sought approval from NZTA, and in theory, NZTA approved this subject to council approval as well, and a paper will be coming to council in due course associated with that request. Governance and senior management. All Category A projects are reported, as discussed earlier, to our Risk and Assurance Committee. And managing regulatory change. Compliance and reporting team has been established to monitor and measure compliance against consent conditions. So just going through those aspects there, the current key risks that we still have. One area that was raised was staff engagement surveys. We have constant surveys to consider staff satisfaction. It's a tool to assess staff morale and retention opportunities. The current engagement survey that was conducted, I believe it was in November, was sitting at 59%. And the latest survey has just been completed, and our HR department are sort of finalising all those analytics for us as well. And the continual updating our current processes and procedure templates, that will be ongoing because they're really a living document. As new legislative rules, requirements come in, we're required to update those, and we're always looking for opportunities to improve them as well. So, yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Donna. Questions of Donna? Donna, you started off by talking about the new structure in place. It's now completed. How is that assisting the department thus far?
Through you, Chair. So it's actually enabled our team, so particularly in my department, I can only really talk for my department, we look at the whole life cycle of assets, and having the one team under that one portfolio, including roading operations and solid waste and green space in particular, it really does assist. It's helped with the connectivity, where the teams are working together as one team, driving to deliver and perform. It's also, we've been able with the restructure to have some additional positions, which have been hugely appreciated, because prior to that, we definitely had gaps where more depth and detail work may have not been getting delivered in a timely manner due to lack of resources.
No. You talked about the development of the comms plans and elected members being involved in the development of press releases. Do elected members, particularly the portfolio holders, have the opportunity to get involved in discussions on the comm plans as well?
Through you, Chair, I'm not the right person to respond to that. I can go back to Jules and ask that question for you.
Thank you. Other questions? There are none.
I think the answer, Mr. Chairman, would be I don't think there's a general policy of including the portfolio holders in comms plans across the activities. although we always have the opportunity that portfolio holders are meeting regularly with the group managers. In that sense, if that was an issue associated with that, then we can pick that up. If there was a desire or a usefulness attached to that aspect of it, we are careful around including relevant elected members for issues and that where they may become a public interest issue, things like that side of things. That's how we tended to address that. But comms plans per se, for let's say a category A project, it isn't standard necessarily that they get involved in the detailed design of that. There may be questions, like it's often that we will maybe refer particular issues in the design to an elected member or elected members or their job opinion too, but not generally in the design of a comms.
Thank you. Any other questions or observations? If not, we have 2 recommendations on page 25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Cotton, all in favour? Against? Carried.
Sorry, just also, Mr. Chairman, I should probably also add though that the significant processes like the LTP, for example, and an annual plan process, and that absolutely the elected members receive reports and give direction on engagement, significance of engagement and comms planning.
Thank you very much. Capital Project Report, page 31, Donna.
Thank you. So we'll work through, if your preference is that we start working through the capital category A projects firstly, I'll hand over to, I think it's Raymar. In this instance, as John is currently on leave.
Thank you. So we're on page 35, attachment A. As everybody knows, I'm desperately keen for a ribbon cutting exercise in this project. I'm expecting to hear the date we're doing that.
There has been a date set on.
Brilliant.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, morning. Through your chair, for Balmoral to Apega, although the scheme is successfully delivering compliant drinking water, the project team is still currently managing active operational risk, as well as which includes those high friction losses and localized pressure reductions in Balmoral to network, as well as an active contractual defect dispute within the pipeline contractor. So that's the gist of the report. Be open to any questions.
Other questions of Raymar? You talk about the time frame, or what is, start again, you talk about the work for commissioning, telemetry and permanent supply. Do we have a time frame for that?
So, sorry, which page was that?
It is
Chair.
on page 36 under the heading of Job Status Summary. It says overall the program is progressing but remains exposed to risks until commissioning, telemetry and permanent supply solutions are fully completed and assured. Do we have a time frame for when that may be happening?
Through your chair, this is really more of those teething problems once you start a project, and we just keep our communications open on what the operations team are encountering, and if it's still under the defect of that project or of that contractor, that's where we have those conversations to remedy those defects.
On page 40, the last of the risks talks about supply capacity to meet summer demand. I assume that will be ongoing on a year-on-year basis. Climatic conditions.
Through your chair, yes, definitely. Everyone's all right.
There is a specific.
So this is the supply of Balmoral 2,
Yes.
and we've recognised that we need to have a pump from the Wairahuna treatment plant site. So we've got to resolve that ahead of the summer demand this year. The supply and the pressure of the water through the new pipes, which is going in the opposite direction to how it used to, is a couple of litres short of what we were expecting in the modelling. So we'll be putting a pump in to assist with that.
Thanks, Linda. Councillor Cotton, you're close to the action on this one.
Yes,
You're
thank you.
comfortable with the project?
To date, there's a couple of wee things that need to be sorted out, but I do have a question around, probably for Linda to answer, around the Lawrence connection. And are we seeing any impact on the likes of Balmoral, the old Balmoral 2 side or other parts of the scheme? And are we likely to, will that add to that problem we were just discussing?
No impact to date. We know that the pumps are running at the ball field a lot more, so since Lawrence came online, but we're not seeing any other impact.
Thank you.
Other questions on this project? Councillor Cotton?
Not a question, just for your information, Friday, July 17th from 3 to 5 has been proposed as the ribbon cutting for this scheme. So pencil it in.
Keep the calendar free.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Raymar, I assume you're doing Milton projects?
Yep, yes. Probably before I start with the Milton State Highway Pipeline Renewals Project, there's an item for public excluded on this project. But if I would summarize the report, it would be the physical pipeline installation is nearing completion. And the project has encountered a major risk, wherein the existing pavement structure encountered some issues leading to a critical dispute, which is still happening right now. This also has necessitated an extended traffic detour through local residential roads and ongoing negotiations with NZTA. Apart from that, I'm open for those questions on the pipeline renewals in Milton State Highway.
Thank you. Do we have any questions acknowledging that this is going to be discussed further later in the agenda today?
Yes.
Okay, Milton beautification.
Through your chair, to summarize what's happening in Milton Beautification Project, physical works are progressingly steadily. The iconic feature wall is almost complete. The River of Light Plaza lighting currently under construction. And previously reported, the project has suffered some delays related to some weather events and design changes previously. Additionally, there are some resources who were not around during those physical works, which has created an administrative backlog, but we're working through it. So, yeah, open to questions.
In your report on page 48, we talk about scheduled works to complete this period, May and June. Is that effectively the end of the project? Or is there more work beyond that?
Through your chair. So there's a revised schedule that was submitted that's still being checked. But the main works that has to be completed would be the brick wall installation as well as the planting. So to answer your question, there's a slight delay because earlier I said that we would complete by end of June. But I don't have the confidence to say that it will end by June.
So what's your best estimate?
I'm estimating it to be completed by mid of July.
Okay. Now, Am I reading this right on the financial table on page 48? Shows a variance of 939. Does that mean the project will be underspent by 939,000?
Through your worship, I think, through your worship, through the chair, this variance, the primary driver here was when we awarded the contract, it was really below that estimated variance. But this is our best estimate based on the forecast of the construction project.
Just through you, Chair, so just to clarify, the total budget that we have available is the 2.25,
Yeah.
however, the contract is significantly less than that.
Thank you. Councillor Makatamani?
Yeah, just through the chair, yeah, that 2.2 was what we put in the LTP 2 years ago for the project, but we spec'd it down when we awarded when the tenders went out. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, we definitely don't want to be spending, going anywhere near it, yeah.
Understand that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you're right. So, Mr. Chairman, we should be measuring performance, financial performance against the approved amount that the council gave, for which the contract was awarded. Because we always go back to, do we need to spend some of that money because we think it's there for something, when actually, no, that was a deliberate decision of council to save some money, right? So we've eaten into it from decisions around, the feature wall and things like that, again by council decision. But the original budget and what we're after being looked at to spend is less than the original budget. So we need to just be careful with that.
Okay. Councillor McCrosty, then Councillor Catherwood.
Well, through the chair, just if you look at it, on the 12th of June, we made the decision to proceed with option C, which was 1.1 million, and we've still got a budget of 2.25.
Yep.
How's that work?
So through you, the Chair, so the budget is the budget, that doesn't move, that doesn't change because it was a budget value approved by councillors during LTP processes or annual plan discussions. But to provide some certainty to you, whenever we award a contract, there's contingency factored into that awarded value, and at any time that a variation comes up from the team, because we actually have an internal template process with requests for variation orders. At all times, I sign off those variations, and the first thing I ensure is that we're not breaching the contractual awarded value inclusive of contingency. And if at any time we get to that stage, that is the only time we ever come to council to advise you and request the additional expenditure.
Well, it says here in the 1.1, it's including a 10% contingency.
Correct. Because councillors made that award at one council meeting. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the date.
Yeah, so I'm confused too, because if I remember right, it was about 1.1.
Yeah, 1.103.
And then it came back to council for the wall addition, is that?
Of 80,000.
Of 80, that's what I remember. So it'd be just under 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the point. What would be helpful in terms of performance reporting financially for the project is to separate the issue around what the LTP budget was and what it is that you approved, which is referenced in the text here, right? Because what you're trying to understand is how is it progressing financially against what we approved, as opposed to the budget. We intentionally approved a project less than the LTP budget to make savings. And so I think it's important to understand, yes, there's a budget, LTP, but what we should be assessing ourselves against is what was approved by council. And I mean, you have to do some extrapolations and do some mathematics to say, oh, we're there or thereabouts. But in the report, you would be looking for that to be more easily visible to you, because that's what you should be assessing, right?
And so it looks like the cost of the project is going to be 1.3, which is the sum of cost to date of 779 and the forecast of 534, which Councillor McCrosty comes up towards the numbers that you're talking about. Now, councillor Catherwood, you've still got a question going.
Well, no, if it was, you're presuming the available budget was 118,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
And that's the issue.
That's what I'm
Mr.
wondering.
Chairman.
It says available budget 1.473,
Yeah.
but if I remember rightly, it was 1.1, and then the all came back at 80, 118.
Yes, and so the point, what we don't want to do, and we know this internally because we've had these problems in the past, is we don't want capital delivery and project side of things to think that there's a whole lot of money there to spend if just because by budget in terms of the LTP. No, the approval was what council approved. That's what we should measure against. Like if you look at it particularly, and we thought it was 1.18 or whatever, there's an argument to say we're forecasting to overspend by $100,000, right, or thereabouts. Now, that's what we should be reporting on, and that's what we should be talking about by how we're describing it. That's all we're saying.
So just through the chair, the physical construction awarded value, which is what our councillors approved at the time, does not include the professional services costs, which are over and above that value. So that is, in this case, what that difference is. But we'll take the feedback from you, and what we will do for our next risk and assurance is we'll add, if you agree to this, an additional column where it shows contracted awarded value, and we can also split it further if you'd like, where we have the awarded value for our professional services provider as well, and that's for your detailed design, the MSQA, engineers rep, contract administrator, independent certifier types of work. We're more than happy to have that visibility for you as well.
Donna, I'd appreciate if you would do that because there is some confusion around the budgeted cost and the actual cost. So thank you for that. Any other questions of Donna? Councillor Catherwood?
So then your forecast spend of the 534, how's that looking to finish the project?
Through the chair. So just going one step back. So before a project manager asks Donna or myself to sign off a project, there's this budget sheet that we ask from the team. And that budget sheet shows the different components of the project, which I think would aid with this discussion. And to answer Councillor's question, the forecast would include, as what Donna has also mentioned, was the forecast to complete based on those professional services. So it's either the construction monitoring or the contract administration or the independent certifier in this case. So that includes, that costs are included in the forecast to spend.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that. What I'm asking is,
Yeah.
are we on track to come within that 534?
Through your chair, yes. We're looking at that. Yes.
Thank you. So again, more detail for our next report, if you would, Donna, please.
Yeah.
Right, Elsie Stewart. And some very good news that you've highlighted on page 55. Well done.
Yes, thank you. So that was great news that the Lotteries Grant funding application by the Bruce Community Trust has been successful, and that we're due any time now to receive $700,000 from the lotteries. We've got it now? Excellent, because we hadn't had it at the time of writing the report. So that's great news. And I really do want to recognise that it was a team effort, particularly with Lily and Community Services and Finance and myself and some of the team. Like, there's an awful lot of work that the council staff did to enable the trust to be able to put that application forward. So I did want to acknowledge that. And now the Bruce Community Trust are now in the process of applying for up to $1 million. Oh, and that $700,000 was the full amount that the trust had applied for as well. So that was really a great news story. The trust are now currently applying for $1 million funding grant through Otago Community Trust as well. So that's underway, it's been lodged, so we'll watch the space and see how we progress with that. As you can see from the photo, the pool panels for the exterior walls for the building as well as the pool are all starting to get put into place. The pool filtration system was expected to be arriving and laying, so that's the underground infrastructure for the large 25-metre pool. Once that's in place, then we'll be able to start, the contractor will be able to start pouring the concrete for the base of the pool. As you're aware, Calder Stewart have purchased the building adjacent to this project, and demolition is expected to start at the end of this month. So you'll start seeing some things happening there as well. They had to get approval from NZTA, obviously, because they'll be doing demolition works right beside the state highway, and it's outside of the scope of this project, so it's not something that I will be reporting on unless you are asking me to try and get that information from Calder Stewart. So I'll seek your advice on that, if you'd like that information or not. Donald Stewart informed me very excitedly at the contractor evening that the steel has all arrived now, and has asked me to come and have a look. So I'm planning to go up there in the next week to where all the steel is stored off-site. I'll get a couple of photos for you there as well, because apparently it's very impressive looking. A lot of the subcontractors are now getting signed up under Calder Stewart's umbrella. So a lot's happening and it's progressing nicely at this point in time. I was made aware earlier this week that one of the neighbours, he reached out to me and was concerned that he was getting surface flooding, which he thought was coming from the site. And I contacted Calder Stewart straight away, and they were very fast with the response. Went next door, spoke to the property owner, and in actual fact it's coming from underneath their house. So great reaction from the contractor, but we've also putting additional silt fencing and protection along that boundary, just to triple ensure that there's no flow on water from that area and location. What else can I tell you? Oh, one of the risks that was in the Calder Stewart's register, which is on page 58 of the report, the precast panel safety inspection, I noted that that was still remaining open. I contacted them about that, but it was just, they had a miss to actually mark it as closed. So all those risks have now been closed. Financially, we're on track. There's no issues and no concerns there. I've included the high-level Gantt chart timeline from Calder Stewart for delivery of the project for your visual, something for you to look at there. So risks. So time and quality, we'll always keep that on there, but that's currently no risk at this point in time. Public perception, I'm quite like to leave that as potential areas of risk there, while we keep the communication flowing well and while we address any issues that the public raise in a very quick turnaround of which we're doing, that is all under control. However, again, it just needs to be flagged there as a potential, could be a potential risk. Fuel and freight, although that is a risk to Calder Stewart, to council there's no risk to us because it is a lump sum project. And the contaminated ground, I don't know if you've managed to see as you walk past from Ajax Street, there's mounds and mounds and mounds of contaminated soil that is covered because that's part of our resource consent requirements. There is a risk that when we get to the point of actual moving that material on site, that some may have to be moved. But at this point in time, it's contained on site as required. And any questions?
Thanks, Donna. Very comprehensive report. Obviously, contracts in early days, but making good progress. Do we have any questions? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, the chair. Donna, just you mentioned that the building next door is getting knocked down. It's not really a council issue, but I'd be picking it'd be the comms around that for the public perception. might be interesting.
Through you, Chair, yes, I've spoken with Donald about that, and I'm very comfortable if the councillors would like us to be involved in the comms associated with that, but it's not part of this project as such. But I'm very comfortable if that's the direction you give me.
Any thoughts on that? A way of follow-up?
I'm just aware that people will be thinking it's a council issue. They already are.
Yeah. If there's any clarity required, then I would strongly advise that that be addressed. Yeah. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, through you, knowing the Milton network of, most of them will tell you that it's Donald Stewart that's doing that, and it's not part of the project. They'll try and speak pretty smartly around Milton, unlike a lot of other communities.
So what would your recommendation be?
Oh, look, do it, but look, the old gossip around, gossip machine around Milton is pretty effective.
It could be through the chair, though, the wider community.
Yeah. Staff will like that.
The issue though, Mr. Chairman and councillors, is if you step into that process, people then start actually perceiving that it's your process. And what you're trying to do, if you were going to step in, would be to say, hey, it's not our process, it's somebody else's, but you are the one that's commenting on it, right? So that's the challenge is if we were to write something, what would we be writing? This is happening, but it's not council.
It's almost the collective we, isn't it?
So you could ask the owner of the building to have a public statement.
Yeah.
To get rid of the confusion.
Councillor Makatamini?
Through your chair, I'd just leave it and just see what comes of it. If there's a bit of noise, deal with it. If it's not, so be it.
There already is.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm interested to see what the Bruce Ward councillors have got to say.
To be honest, I'd probably actually be putting something out there in conjunction with Calder Stewart.
Yeah.
For the sheer fact that it's not just Milton, this is a fairly major undertaking for the entire district. So yes, Milton drums will beat loud, but the reality is you want it to go out to the whole Clutha district on the size of this project. That this is what's happening. This is Calder Stewart, blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk to Donald or whatever, but let it be known that for the greater community. Just my thoughts.
I think the best approach would be to contact Calder Stewart, make them aware of questions that are being asked, a suggestion that a joint press release be crafted and distributed. Are we comfortable to direct staff to do that? Yep. Okay.
Well, just timing on that one, Mr. Chairman, because there's nothing official.
No.
Like, I mean, I don't have in front of me anything in terms of the future use of that land or anything. You know, that may or may not arrive to council at some point, right? So the issue is, it might, conversation absolutely might generate that, but at the moment, we're talking about something that doesn't actually exist in council, on council's books or anything, right? So that's the difficulty. I'm not disputing that perhaps if you want to have something about an issue, but my problem from council's perspective is there's no offer given. I haven't received anything, and that. So what is it? And so we've just got to be careful around what is it therefore about, because until or unless we get something that's a firm offer or an arrangement agreement or whatever, I have no idea what the undertakings to that will be. Like that's my issue around a joint, what jointly can be said, because we don't want to commit council to anything unless it's coming through something that actually we see on paper or we understand the ramifications, what's involved. I have no idea.
And it may well be that Calder Stewart are happy to put out something on their own. But
That
at
would
least
be
have a
preferable.
conversation. Councillor Graham, you.
Yeah, look, I don't think we should be mentioning it all. we're not doing it, the Calder Stewarts are, and knowing Donald Stewart sort of tries to keep a low profile on a lot of stuff, I'd say it's up to him to tell people. If he doesn't want to tell people, so yeah, it's not our business.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with Councillor McAteen's thoughts on it. If something comes to us and it's an issue we'd like to deal with it.
So my suggestion would be, as I said before, staff to engage with Calder Stewart and yeah.
That way pass the concern over. Right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think, yeah, it's just certainly share the views of the local councillors down there.
Yeah.
With their comms, our comms and their comms, but at the moment there's no real issue because nothing's happened.
Any other questions of Donna on this project? If not, we'll go back to page 32 and Sharon's going to talk about Datascape project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to say we've had quite a lot of reactive help from Datacom since our last meeting. We've had some people down here, we've had them on site, and it's been really good because we've learned about functionality we didn't know was there. We're able to do more things. Confidence is growing in a lot of areas of Datascape, which is really good. We still have some issues in some of the less mature parts of the system, but yeah, they're working through those with us. They're monitoring tickets, there's weekly catch-ups, and we're also very aware that the 30th of June is very close, and we're about to go through our first year end with it. And there's actually a webinar on that today on the processes around that and what we have to do. It'll be this afternoon, so the finance team will be attending that for their different parts. And we had our relationship manager on site yesterday, which was good. We got a chance to talk through some of the things, and she's also taken away a lot of things to follow up for us and was very positive about pushing to get us some action and acknowledge that we're not the only ones facing some of these things. They've got some functionality to fix, but all in all, it is heading in the right direction. And you can see that when it does work correctly, it is going to be very good. It's just been a very long journey getting to this point.
And we acknowledge the input of staff over the past very frustrating 12 months or so. So thank you for that. Any questions of Sharon? Councillor Catherwood?
Oh, has there been any financial impact from it was a set fee from the get-go, which has obviously taken way more resources on their end as well. So has that gone outside of budgets or?
Through you, Chair. At this stage, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't believe there's been very much impact at all. They've been very cooperative and acknowledging issues and stuff. There has been some times where we said, look, we just need this fixed, we'll worry about that later. We can talk about it later, negotiate that later.
Yeah, but we have.
What was our capital spend on that project?
Trying to remember, Councillor, it was it was very low because it was we got all the discounts from going first with it.
Yeah.
I know we did get a figure at one point that was explained a couple of years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
When we first did it, but I don't want to just guess.
Yeah.
In that, but we're only talking low hundreds or less for something that we talked before that. Is it? Well, Sharon thinks it might have been.
I think it was under 300,000.
Yeah,
It's my understanding.
and for something like that nowadays, it's significantly more. So, I would hate to quantify how you would cost out all the problems and matters associated with that, but from a physical dollar perspective, it was a pretty low capital.
So the ongoing running of that system then just comes out of our IT budget?
Yes. We are, part of the discussion yesterday was saying, hey, we're really in a complex situation of aspects working well, aspects still even in production, not mature, and some in between. It's really complicated to work out responsibilities for funding bits and pieces. And so we've asked them to do that reconciliation with us so we can all be clear around that, because complex system status at the moment.
Maturity
Yeah.
levels.
And so we need to be making sure that that itself isn't a cause for low reactions and fix it.
Other questions? If not, page 33, Your Worship, there's comment on local water done well. Is there anything that you wish to add to the commentary on that item? No? Any questions of His Worship on Project H? Nope. Go to page 31. There is a recommendation that we receive capital project report. Do I have a mover?
Same.
Councillor Harrison, Councillor Cotton. All in favour? Against? Carried. We now go to page number 66 and welcome Linda to talk about the Three Water Operations report.
I'm coming to the front because I don't want to talk to the backs of people. Sorry, Steve. Happy to take the report as read, but just want to point out a couple of things that you hopefully have seen. So this is a 10-month report, also done manually, hopefully for the last time. I'm sure that's Greg's wish. Now that we've got Datascape reporting looking a whole lot better. And our position that 10 months is an overspend of 1.4 million or 7.3%. And you might recall at the last meeting, the second bullet point there on page 67, I reported 1.7 million and 11.6%. So we did a major review during May with help from Sharon's team and identified that some capital project work had been coded against OPEX. So that's regularised the position. And also just looking back over the last couple of reports as well. So at 6 months, we were 9.1% over budget. At 7 months, 13.8. So at 10 months, sitting at 7.3 is obviously a better position than we might have looked at halfway through the year. So good to see things regularising somewhat, even acknowledging that we are going to be overspent at the end of the year. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Linda. Questions of Linda? Councillor McTamaney.
Just to be clear, on the insurance costs from the last year's windstorm, so they've got included in this total, but may not be claimable under insurance. So nothing was approved by insurance. That 305,000 is added on to that 1 point.
Potentially, although I have had a conversation with Sharon, there is the emergency fund that we could take that shortfall from. So some of that work will be claimable under business interruption because we know that the contractor was securing generators, utilising staff and things, but some of it will be repairs. So anything underground isn't insured. So if there's anything underground within that total, that will not be recoverable.
Okay. Linda, based on the year-end projections for the 26 financial year, are we comfortable with the budget for 27 year?
Yes, now that I've seen the numbers that we've corrected in May, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable.
Okay. Other questions of Linda? If not, do we have a mover? Councillor Cotton, seconded Councillor McCrosty. All in favour? Carried. Thanks,
Mr. Chairman,
Linda.
just checking, I mean, you obviously kept up with the decisions at the annual plan, the additional funding into Three Waters, which was part of council. Yes, Linda.
That's right. Just leaving it to the next person.
Right, and the next person is Sharon, who's going to very happily talk to the financial reports on page 70 and 71. We acknowledge that prior to this meeting started, we conducted a short workshop to focus on the formatting of the statements and also identify any additional financial information that elected members would like in future months. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really know what to say, considering we talked about this all this morning, I guess. Just that we have some notes on some variances down the side. We talked this morning about some additional information you'd like brought back and some groups of costs that we're going to split out further and do more reporting on. Other than that, I guess take any questions should you have any.
So we'll just add that the additional information includes exception reporting, cash flow reports, and year-end projections. And with further detail to be provided to councillors on significant budget items so that we can clearly understand the makeup of those figures. Any comments, questions, observations? Councillor McAtamany?
Thank you. You're through the chair. Right, so one question, 2 months to go. We had a catch up the other day, but still, with the extra depreciation now, how close are we going to be to making the original budget?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the extra depreciation to date for the 10 months is, like, roading depreciation in total for the 10 months is 17 million.
Yep.
So we don't fund very much of that at all.
No, I'm interested in how, with 2 months to go, how close, will we finish in surplus or deficit? If you took that depreciation.
Excluding the depreciation,
Through you, Mr. Chair, very good question. Very good question. I can't quite answer that yet, but the additional depreciation from the reval was 10 million.
Yeah.
And we're sitting at 8.5, but in saying that we do have all the rates in, that would take a wee bit of.
Yeah.
Yes, so the
cash position is what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understood. And the cash flow is very, very close, isn't it, Greg? Very close to getting to being. It's there, but it's just not quite right. We've just got a few more final tweaks to do.
But off the top of our head, in terms of what we know, we are expecting a deficit with the water ops, right? So 1 point, whatever that's going to be, 1.7 or under 2 million or whatever, so it's going to be that chunk there. Donna has done work around the waste deficit that has been there, so we were expecting that to be potentially half. That was going to be like $500,000 in a particular financial year. We've done some homework. It might not be exactly halved. It might be 300,000 deficit, but it'll be less than what we were habitually finding through that activity from action that she's taking. So those are two knowns. The question might be, where are we sitting with the transportation one's always a tricky one. We're always we're out in our financial reporting in terms of the grants and the timing of the pieces and the program and all that, and trying to just get a handle on where we're sitting in respect to that. Because if we don't spend all the money, then it'll be a bit of a false offset, won't it? Because we're going to have to spend it the next year, and we'll overspend versus budget. So that's an outstanding one. We need to figure out where that sort of sits. It is a balancing over the 3 years, but it doesn't help if it goes whichever way wrongly in terms of the second year. Employee benefits seem to be about 1-to-1, so that's good because it's another chunk of things. The fees and charges and bits and pieces don't seem to be out in any significant way, so it's not like we're under receiving significantly. I would say that should be okay with what we see. So the only sort of variable around that, if it's excluding the depreciation stuff, is really that program from Donna's side of things. And I'm not 100% sure we were sitting, because they sort of scrambled around the last couple of months to do, and I'm not sure what the scramble is going to end up being. She's always going to spend versus budget. Any forecast on that, Donna?
Yep, through the chair. So for roading operations, so if you recall, there was an increased work program this financial year where the roading ops contractor had in excess of $11 million to deliver this year. Really pleased that they are performing really, really well. Our last claim, they've advised me was the highest claim ever since I've had the contract with us. So over the last 4 years, it's $1.5 million. They're tracking nicely. However, with the weather changing, looks like we'll be potentially underspending about 800,000 of the 11 million, which I'm actually very pleased with that result. But once we do the final year-end claim, as Steve advised, then we can update you.
Thanks, Donna. Any other questions or observations? If not, do we have a mover for the recommendation receiving these reports? Councillor Kennedy has moved, seconded by Councillor Harrison. All in favour? Carried. Greg, Treasury Report on page 72.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Everybody. Yes, so the Treasury Report, again, some of this probably follows on from what we discussed at the workshop this morning. But I'll just go through a couple of the main points. So yeah, page 73, you'll see the current debt amount is 166.8 million, and new debt of 22 million this financial year. So we had an additional 8.5 million new debt borrowed during April. The year-to-date interest paid on the LGFA debt, you'll notice, is a bit of an increase in that from last time. As we talked about earlier, during April, we had the semi-annual interest payment that came through from there as well. So that was an amount of 1.07 million. So that gets paid in April and November each year. And just looking at this stage, we've just got 104k additional interest to be paid in June. That's on the maturity of one of our debt amounts that we're rolling over. So yes, at the end of the year, that total amount of year-to-date interest paid on the LGFA debt should be 6.120 million, with the additional 104k. And just looking at the trend on the graph below, you'll notice that May 2026, our cost of funds is 4.07%. So it has increased a bit from last time back to where we were at October last year. So slight increase, potentially the trend could slightly increase more. Yeah, that's about all I had. So happy to take any discussion or questions.
Greg, I asked the question last time and I just can't remember the answer. Annual plan for next year, average cost of capital factored in is
4.1.
4.1.
Yep.
Thank you. Questions of Greg? Anybody prepared to move the acceptance of the report? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Graham, all in favour? Carried. Right, Sharon, Fitch report.
Thank you. So I've just put a bit of history in here for councillors who went around during the long-term plan, but at that time, council chose to apply for a credit rating, and there was 2 providers, so we got advice on who to go with. We ended up going with Fitch. At that time, we obtained an AA- credit rating, which enabled us to borrow more money with LGFA, but also to get lower interest rates from LGFA because of the credit rating. And each year we get interviewed and we have to provide a whole lot of documentation. They go through our financials backwards and our predictions forwards, and they have to do a review and reissue that credit rating every year. And this report is just to say that after the credit rating we've just been through, we've maintained our AA- credit rating, which is very good news.
It's exceptionally good news, actually. Any questions or observations? Councillor Makatamini, followed by Councillor Cotter.
Through the chair, Sharon, do you think a lot of that report was done by AI? Because they mentioned references to Swiss and some other council.
It's an interesting process. It was done by a woman called Sabrina, who is American but living in Australian, But on that call was also a guy from Hong Kong who had to be there because they can't have one person at a time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite an intense process, isn't it? So it's like, I'm not sure. Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah. Oh, that was France, sorry. Yeah, they're comparing us to some problems in France.
There are two of them, isn't
Yeah.
To you, Mr. Chairman, my question is just around the alternative route. Did the results of the other side that were doing the credit rating, were they very similar to what we went with, or was?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was Fitch ratings and there was Standards and Poor's.
Yes.
They both come and presented to council. They both put in fee proposals, which were pretty similar. Yeah, and so
None of them would have provided a rating that we would.
Okay.
No,
against.
we
This
didn't
was
choose
just-
them prior to that, sorry.
Okay, so what, like, as you know, new councillor, this is new, so why did you choose one over the other? Was it just the cost, or was it recommendation from financial people?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, it was a recommendation from financial people, and it was that the Fitch credit rating people tended to do more work with councils, so it was more similar.
Yep.
Heading the similar way, and this all gets released publicly, and I get emails through all the time about councils. But, yeah.
Okay, no, that's cool, thank you.
Questions, comments or observations? If none, there is a recommendation on page 74. Who would like to?
Mr. Chairman, just probably a comment, like the general comment being, in a time of uncertainty and, a lot of criticism and pressure on council's finances, or this council's finances in particular. This is an endorsement that actually we're not a cop case or anything like that. There is sound financial structure and stability to things, and at that level.
And through you, Mr. Chair, it's also another set of eyes over what we do, which is kind of good. It's
Reassuring.
really good. It's
It's
another
also a good PR story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I'd like to see taken up.
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chairman, if that's what.
Councillor Graham to second. All in favour? That is carried. Now go to page 89, recommendation to move into public excluded. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Graham. All in favour?